the Mavericks swoop into the second round and pick up Hardy. At what point during the draft are you like, hey, we might really be looking to move? Like, I know you're always looking for whatever opportunities present themselves, but when it came to Hardy specifically, at what point did y'all start having discussions about trying to bounce back in there?
I think when, he was the glaring person. I mean, he was the last guy in the green room, so he was the glaring guy that hadn't been picked yet. And probably sometime in the mid-20s, it's like, oh, hold on, he might make it to the second round. And that's when we started to pick up the phone and activate.
We had a conversation yesterday, and I was told 18 months is about how long it takes a guy to develop and get into. He can play in the NBA and be a significant player for you. What's the thought on Jaden? Like, how long are you expecting him to have a significant role with this team?
It's tough to put a time frame on it. I mean, I like your thought of 18 months. The kid is special, though. He has some unique qualities in terms of just he's a, I hate to use this term, but it's the term. He's a killer when it comes to the court offensively. He's explosive. He's powerful. But with that, he's still young and he has to buy into defense and guarding his position and, taking good shots. And it's not like he's going to have the ball and we're going to clear out and be like, all right, killer, go to work, Yeah. So there's a lot to it.
Can you give us some insight about the scouting process for some of these players? Like, for example, how do you weigh what he was doing in high school when he was the number 2 recruit in the country versus what he did in the G League? Like, how does all that balance out in your scouting process?
I think it's a great question.
Thank you.
It's unique. Some of the things you have to do, if you look at these kids that are going against high school kids, and you have to judge that, and then they go against college kids. Well, the G League Ignite, we're not quite sure. We don't have a lot of history to know how much that helps them or how to gauge where that puts them on the spectrum. But if this kid goes to Michigan, he's from Detroit. If he goes to Michigan, he's a lottery pick. But also he has to do a lot less to be a lottery pick.
So I got to watch him, Nico, last night. I watched 2 full G League games because highlights are highlights. So I'm like, well, let me watch it. It's not like I'm a professional scout, but I love basketball. And what I noticed is, first of all, Scoot Henderson is freaking awesome. And I really like Jaden Hardy too. But when Scoot was kind of, let's say, running the point, and you assume Luka's going to run the point here, and Jaden Hardy was off the ball, that's when I felt like he was at his best. In fact, his catch and shoot, I couldn't believe how great his catch and shoot was. Now, it was a game in March versus the Warriors G League team. Do you see that kind of being his role? And I think you kind of answered that a little bit earlier, kind of more of an off-the-ball guy and then just a premium catch-and-shoot guy?
So listen, I mean, you come to our team, you're going to be off the ball. Like, that's just the nature of the beast. But, we got a pretty good guy with the ball in his hand. But there's also times where, you need to have a guy come in and get to the basket or create opportunities so that whether it's Luka or whoever else, either they're on the bench or they're in the game, but we want them off the ball. So to have that optionality. But I'm glad you brought that up. He really can catch and shoot. I think most really good offensive players coming from high school are good with the ball in their hand, and it takes a little maturation process to get them to be able to play without the ball.
And then watching him on defense, it seemed, and I get it, he's 19 years old. At times he seemed to me uninterested in defense. How tough is that to get a guy who is such a premium offensive player at 17, 18, 19 years old to come to the league and say, look, you got to be able to help us defensively to stay on the court?
Yeah, my philosophy is if you're athletic enough to get to the rim and dunk on people and get separation to get shots, then you're athletic enough to guard your position. And you guys will watch this play. Like, we play defense. And so if you can't guard your position, you're not going to, especially being a young kid, you're not going to get on the floor.
Did you see anybody at 26 that you said, you know what? Darn it, we shouldn't have traded for Christian Wood?
No, they still got him, though.
Actually, that's a good one. We got him. No, You couldn't get Christian Wood at 26.
Now, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying a player at that caliber, you couldn't get in the draft at that level.
I don't know what you can or cannot or do not want to tell us about this, but we couldn't help but notice while watching the NBA draft last night, as pumped up as we are about what the team did, we're also watching what the Knicks were doing, and we're well aware of their see, clearly you were as well. And we're well aware of their interest in Jalen Brunson. How do you anticipate that process playing out over the next week or two? And I guess essentially whatever you can tell us on that front with Brunson.
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, it's probably the worst kept secret in the NBA or in sports. So, yeah, everybody was watching that. We were watching it. There's, it's obvious, but we'll wait and see. It's still not a done deal. We have, only time will tell.
How many? I'm kind of curious on this process of how many scenarios you have to run through on a daily basis, almost, to try and say, okay, if this happens, then this happens. Like how often are you thinking about that specifically, though?
Yeah, I think that's probably the most important thing that you do is prepare for, the if then, the rainy day, the ideal situation, not ideal, but 1A, 1B, 2, you gotta run all those different permutations so that you're prepared.
So you talked about getting Christian Wood. I'm super excited about that. I think he can thrive here. You got one big guy. Are you happy, satisfied, I don't know the right word, with your big guy rotation? Are you hoping maybe in free agency or possibly another trade to get another big guy on your team?
Well, let me answer it. Let me answer it this way. First, I want to give a shout out to the guys who we traded to Houston. I think it's important to acknowledge them because they were part of the team that went to the Western Conference Finals, and they all helped us out in their own way. So Bogey, who's obviously a fan favorite, Trey Burke, who's been here for a while, Sterling Brown, and Marquise both were here 1 year. So want to give a shout out to them. But having said that, but also having said that, we have roster spots available. So we're going to take those roster spots and fill in positions that we need to make our roster stronger.
Talking with Nico Harrison, Mavericks GM, right here on 105.3 The Fan. And this can be about the Mavericks, but it's just kind of more of a general sports question as well. How difficult is it to know how to proceed when you do make it far? Like, y'all made it to the Western Conference Finals, but that doesn't automatically mean you'll just show up and get back there. Is it ever difficult to know when to progress and when to take a step back so you can maybe go for it stronger in another year?
Yeah, I think it does. I think probably the expectations of the fans once you make it that far are going to weigh in on the players and the coaches and the front office. But at the end of the day, you're building towards one thing, and whether that's take a slight step back to take 2 steps forward, you just gotta continue to do the right thing to build the best team you can.
We were talking with a couple of guys that have, the former NBA players that said for Luka to go to that next level, to make that next step, it's premium conditioning, a completely different commitment to working your body out. And Mike always talks about Michael Jordan having that moment where Detroit had beat him up so much he was like, they won't be able to do that again. And I don't know if Luka's had that moment yet, but we are seeing lots of videos and lots of pictures of him working out this offseason. I was kind of curious about what y'all were looking at for him to go and make that next, put him in a next level this year.
Yeah, I think, I said this the other day, I bet on Luka. He's that talented of a player. He knows what he needs to do to be at the optimal level. And quite honestly, he can be suboptimal and still be amazing. But he knows what he needs to do. And I bet on him. I bet that he's going to do the right things so that he can perform at the optimal level.
Do you have any concerns about him playing? I did see that he was playing a friendly. Do you have any concerns about him playing? I
love the fact he's in the gym. I love the fact that he loves basketball. He loves to compete.
Now,
so to answer your question, I don't. And in all honesty, if you're alluding to like injuries or that could happen at any point in time. I don't think you can worry about it. I think the best thing to do is to make sure that you're in great shape and you're strengthening your body and you're in good condition to eliminate any type of things that could happen.
I have no doubt that your job is ultra stressful. I can only even imagine. But
how do you relieve your stress?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. Do you play your own pickup ball? But also, I was just going to generally ask, are you having fun in this job? Because when you describe things to us, it sounds like you're legitimately having a good time constructing this team.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know this. Any job is going to have its stresses. My family, they'll never understand. You make a trade, they're going to be excited. They want to hear all the details, but they don't know, all the behind-the-scenes stuff. You got to call players and, apologize, and you feel sorry. Every job has that, and that just goes with the territory. But at the end of the day, yeah, I'm an optimistic person, so I try to enjoy life as much as I can. I try to take the stresses and look at the positives of everything. And so, yeah, I'm enjoying the job, and that's just who I am as a person.
So since it was your first time as a general manager in the draft room, do you know who's going first through the NBA, or is it Woj on Twitter like I have to follow that he has the announcement first on who's going next?
No, we have like an intel board that was pretty good. Very, very accurate.
Even those first 3 picks, because the first 1 and 3 kind of got turned upside down for some folks.
Well, that's because you're not in the know.
That is an excellent counterpoint.
I am kind of curious. I did want to go back to Christian Wood just a little bit because we're really excited about that addition. Kevin and Mike and Reggie have been talking about him for about 2 years now, going back, and we always kind of felt like that was an impossible thing. And you made the impossible happen, Nico. But I'm like, when you look at the idea of how this team works, will he fit in a different way where you have a little more presence in the paint, or is it kind of similar to standing around and shooting and Luka controlling everything?
No, I think when you look at him, we don't need him to score 20 points a game, in our team. So you're going to have the person who has the ability to score, which is probably the most important thing because he's always going to be a threat on the floor. I think his athletic ability, his ability to roll to the rim, the defense has to pay attention to him. If they switch off of Luka, he's going to punish whoever's in front of him. You can't put a little on him. He's just too talented offensively. So I think he gives you a lot of versatility in that respect. And then, by the way, yes, he can step out and really shoot the ball from the 3, but really his presence in the rim and on the paint is going to be a game changer, and his playmaking ability at the free throw line.
How much discussion have y'all had, and is it still viable that the trade exception will be used before it expires?
Yeah, we talk about it. It's viable, but you just don't know if somebody's willing to put a player in there that you actually want, and then if they do, what do they want in return? And
there's also whenever there's a star player that's out there that keeps getting linked to the Mavericks, do y'all know? Like, there's a star player right now that his name keeps popping up, and
I haven't heard that one.
I can say his name, but
Side question: have you ever seen Uncle Drew? Not related to any of that.
But when those names pop up, like, is that oh man, that's news to me, or are you like, oh wow, yeah, we know something about that, interested or not interested?
Yeah, normally I know something about that, but also I know a lot of players in the league too, so not surprised on some things that pop up.
Oh, that's a good. I know that these guys weren't in the league until last night when they were drafted. How many agents are call? I know you guys didn't have any picks, but how many agents are maybe calling you as the draft progresses, and maybe they were hoping their client would be a lottery pick or a guy that was a top 25 pick, and they're saying, hey, we'd love to come to Dallas. We worked out for you. If you can try to make a trade, my guy really wants to be there.
Again, I'm an optimistic person. They all do it. I really believe that Dallas is a destination and people really want to play here. But I can only go by what people say, what players say, what agents say. So I truly believe that we're a destination. We're going to be on people's short list.
Well, Nico, we always love talking with you. Great insights and appreciate your time very much, good sir.
No, thanks, fellas. Enjoy the heat. Have a great weekend.
All right.